today on Rappler.
Hindi utak puwis ako. Shoot to kill. Hindi na ako buhat na gano'n.
An early bird for 2013, former President Joseph Estrada flaunts an alliance with his rival's political heir. A gambling expert predicts the next big thing in Asia will be gambling. On Press Freedom Day, the Committee to Protect Journalists names its top 10 worst offenders.
Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. We at Rappler promise uncompromised journalism that hopefully inspires smart conversations and ignites a thirst for change. Actors turned politicians, former President Joseph Estrada and Manila Vice Mayor Isko Moreno stopped short of declaring their bids for Manila Mayor and Vice Mayor in 2013. Moreno officially joins Estrada's political party in an oath-taking at the Club Filipino in San Juan today. Resigned Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri joins him as a new member of the Puwersa ng Masang Pilipino. In his speech, Estrada takes a swipe at incumbent Manila Mayor Alfredo Lim. If Estrada decides to run, Lim will likely be his rival for mayor.
Ngayon, ang Maynila for the past 20 years, naiwanan ng Makati, naiwanan ng Quezon City, naiwanan pa ng Taguig, naiwanan ng Samon, mas maganda na sama sa Maynila. Bakit nagkaganon? Buti na lang, hindi utak puwis ako. Shoot to kill. Hindi na ako buhat na gano'n.
Moreno says the move to join Estrada will not affect his relationship with Lim. Moreno is seen as Lim's political heir, the incumbent vice mayor. Election watchdogs argue before the Supreme Court that the Commission on Elections should not use the same counting machines which automated the 2010 elections. The groups say there are still unaddressed problems from the PICOS, the precinct count optical scan machines. The PICOS machines cost the government 1.8 billion pesos. Among the allegations, the PICOS machines did not read the ballots whose ovals were not properly shaded. This is the charge of Vice Presidential candidate Manuel Roxas III, who lost to Vice President Jejomar Binay. Another allegation is that people can tamper with the CF cards. That was highlighted in the case of former Supreme Court Justice Dante Tinga versus Mayor Lani Cayetano in Taguig. Tinga claims the CF cards had been pre-programmed. Another candidate protesting election results is Quezon City Representative Annie Susano, who lost against Quezon City Mayor Herbert Bautista. Susano claims her computer expert accessed the audit log file in the CF cards. Smartmatic, the provider of the PICOS machines, concedes it's possible to access and alter the CF cards, but they would automatically reject the altered files without digital signatures. This means, says Smartmatic, the CF cards cannot be pre-programmed. Smartmatic executive Cesar Flores defended the PICOS machines against charges they contained glitches and lacked security features.
First, I am completely baffled by some of the accusations presented by a former commissioner like Manny, because he blatantly misled the Supreme Court into some issues that not even existed. He claims that digital signatures were not used in the 2010 elections, and that is a blatant lie.
During the oral arguments Wednesday, Supreme Court justices asked the critics of the PICOS machines for any evidence of massive cheating in 2010. They said they had none. The latest on Chen Guangcheng, the Chinese dissident who escaped house arrest to hide at the United States Embassy in Beijing. In an interview with CNN, Chen says he is very disappointed with the U.S. government and felt he had been lied to by American officials. Chen also says he regrets his decision to leave the embassy. In a direct plea to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, he asks Americans to help him and his family leave for the United States. Clinton arrived Wednesday in China for trade talks and found herself in the middle of a diplomatic controversy. The 40-year-old blind, self-taught lawyer escaped round-the-clock surveillance last April and fled to the U.S. Embassy with the help of supporters. He spent 6 days with the Americans, triggering a storm of protests from the Chinese, who demanded that the U.S. apologize for interfering in its internal affairs. Chen claims the Americans did not give him full information on his situation. He adds the embassy officials kept lobbying with him to leave and promised to stay with him in the hospital. But he says, quote, "As soon as I checked into the hospital room, I noticed they were all gone." A gambling expert predicts the next big thing in Asia will be gambling. Regional gambling expert and Credit Suisse director Gabriel Chan says the Asian gaming market is poised for a tipping point, similar to that of Chinese gambling haven Macau. Soon to rise in Manila is the so-called next big gambling hub in the region, the Entertainment City, or of state-run PAGCOR. Chan is a guest speaker during the ADB meeting in Manila. He says reaching the tipping point would be a matter of how fast disposable income and cost of living rises. With China no longer the world's cheapest factory for low-cost exports, Chan says it's inevitable that growth will spread to other countries. The Credit Suisse director said, quote, "In terms of gaming, this is where we find the growth in demand. Asia has the fastest income growth among regions." He adds, Asians have a higher propensity to gamble. Weather agency Pag-asa unveils the first of 3 new Doppler radar stations in Catanduanes on Wednesday, promising more accurate weather forecasts in the future. President Benigno Aquino III led the inauguration. The Virac radar station is on top of a hill and funded by the government of Japan. The new facility is expected to enhance the capability of the Weather Bureau to transmit real-time information and forecasts about tropical cyclones. The Philippines deals with at least 20 typhoons every year.
We must continue focusing more of our resources into creating a system that will better warn us and our people about possible typhoons. Today, this is exactly what is happening in Catanduanes, and I'm very happy to be...
Wednesday, we brought you news about the Philippines winning its first territorial claim in Benham Rise. The victory brings hope to Filipinos caught in a standoff with China over the Scarborough Shoal. On the Rappler mood meter, let's take a look. 93% happy, 5% inspired. Bigger than Luzon, Benham Rise is potentially rich in steel-producing minerals and natural gas, fueling hopes the Philippines can supply its own energy and even export it in the future. It also provides a precedent for the Philippines' other claims under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Mabuhay! Welcome to Benham Rise, Philippines, said Twitter user Justin Quequep about what he called the youngest Philippine territory. Carmelo Loyola says, quote, "Take that, China, this is ours. No more running after this." Shut up, Twitter user K. Enriquez asked sarcastically. Could that be in our ancient maps? Referring to China's claim over Scarborough Shoal based on maps from the 13th century Yuan dynasty. Facebook user Louis Reyes says, "Let us hope the benefits go to our country and not to our politicians' pockets." Well, today is Press Freedom Day, and the Committee to Protect Journalists has come out with its top 10 most censored countries. North Korea loses first place to an African nation. KD Suarez reports.
The small African nation of Eritrea tops the list of countries with the worst media censorship, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. The small country, located at the Horn of Africa, is named as having the worst censorship in the world. Eritrea outranked perennial top-notcher North Korea, which placed second. In Eritrea, the state tightly restricts the media, even directing journalists what angles a story should have. The CPJ says Eritrean journalists suspected of sending information outside the country can be detained without any reason. North Korea is number 2 in the list, followed by Syria, Iran, Equatorial Guinea, Uzbekistan, Myanmar, Saudi Arabia, Cuba, and Belarus. The global media watchdog says these countries have several common denominators: some form of authoritarian rule or disputed leadership, and slow economic growth. The report also cites several other countries, including China, for heavy censorship. China, in particular, was singled out for becoming a model for censorship regimes and for exporting censorship technology. The CPJ released the list on the eve of World Press Freedom Day to highlight the increasing restrictions and threats journalists face throughout the world. Katie Suarez, Rappler, Manila.
Department of Education official Tonesito Umali talks to Rappler's Natasha Gutierrez about Palarong Pambansa, the country's top youth games. Umali says beyond winning, Palaro aims to instill positive values. He says learning from past controversies, this year's games will be stricter in screening the athletes to make sure they're of age. He admits their biggest challenge is funding, saying they would like to give more incentives for winners in the future. Rappler is Palarong Pambansa's official online media partner. Well, the only privately owned version of Edvard Munch's The Scream set a world record when it sold for $119.9 million at Sotheby's in New York. The Scream, one of the most recognizable paintings in history, with its nightmarish central figure and lurid colors, symbolized the existential angst and despair of the modern age. Heated competition between 7 bidders took the prize to new highs in just 12 minutes, sparking applause. The previous record was held by Picasso's nude green leaves and bust, which sold in 2010 for $106.5 million. Well, that's the Rappler Newscast for today, Thursday, May 3, 2012. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.